Dr. Anju Chezot. Dr. Anju Chezot is the co-founder of Mahatma Gandhi International School. She co-created the Generated Resources Learning, an innovative experiential learning methodology that is being used in schools in India and in France. She has spoken at Mind Mingle Inspiration Festival in 2016 and 2019. Besides organizing several workshops with her, Mind Mingle is proud to have her again for the 11th International Inspiration Festival. And today, she would be speaking on the crisis as an opportunity for change towards a joyful multisensory learning for well-being and liberating the mind. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Anju Musafir Chezot.
Hello everyone, thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be with Mind Mingle, both Naveen and Shakil, whom I've seen grow with the organization. I'm extremely privileged to be part of this conference today, and I look forward to hearing the other speakers. We all know that we've been talking a lot about the pandemic, and it's true that many of us have understood that the pandemic itself is a metaphor. As you know, it's in a way we're being told to pause and to think of what has happened really to the earth. And I think a lot has to do with education system, because that's the topic today. And the main question is, what has got us to this kind of a dead end? And I believe that primarily this disconnect between the human being and the environment has led us to a state of great climate change, which is a greater threat, along with, of course, situations like this particular pandemic. Now, why have we come to this particular disconnect? And I think in terms of education, what has happened in the last few centuries is that we inherited, of course, in India and many other countries, the colonial model of education. And we got, let's say, the prison model or the factory model as models or structures that were used to propagate a certain kind of methodology. So, timetables, the kind of rigid way of learning, subjugation of the body, monitor systems, all of these things have come from the prison model. And also the Western epistemologies, that means the ways of knowing, the way we construct knowledge, that has also led to this kind of a divorce between the self and the environment. And why is that? All through the Enlightenment period and later on, the scientific way of looking at things is framed in a binary of the subject and object divide. That means that when I study something, I'm looking at it as an object. There's a distance between me and as a subject and the object of study. This is very contrary to the Indian philosophical frameworks, which come from the Advaita philosophy or the Vedanta, where we believe in the non-duality. It's a kind of there is no binary there. And the subject and the object merge together. And the problem when you look at something purely as an object all the time, then it will lead us to situations where the earth itself, which is a living organism, we will begin to observe it or to exploit it because we don't understand that it's a breathing organism, and also we study, and this exploitation of resources has led us to the situation today. So the point is, how do we bring back the connect? How do we come back to an education, moving away from those colonial models to a more holistic way of learning? And that's going to be my session today. So we're going to start. My main struggle, or my main emphasis in the last few years, along with Pascal, my husband, has been to bring the body back into education. The body has been in exile, and kids have been sitting through centuries, 14 years of the most precious years of our lives. They sat on hard wooden benches, looking and passively receiving a very redundant content. As far as content is concerned, and I know it's a big primary concern of a lot of educators and teachers and parents, I can tell you this content is already redundant. Today, as you sit at home, locked down, tell me, what's the use of learning all these formula and definitions by heart and whatever? How does it help you to live better? How does it help you to be resilient? How does it help you to connect with communities and to progress? So the problem is that in education, we didn't learn things that were really should be important to us as we to lead to lead lives in terms of fulfillment. So to lead fulfilling lives, we didn't really learn. So I think today, and let's see if I have to bring the body back into education, how I'm going to do that. And my first exercise for you right now is linked to something that I call the brain gym, which is known as a brain gym. It's all over YouTube. And this is essentially a simple finger exercise to get two parts of your brain going together, connecting the neurons. And this is important because if you're looking at the kind of, you know, compartmentalization of education, then we need to bring those connections between both the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain. So let's begin with a simple exercise, which is to put your hands together like that. And you're going to use your thumb in one hand and your little finger in the other hand and put them in the same direction. Okay, you do that. And then you take them in and you take it outside to the other side. Okay, so you're going to use it in this way. You take it, your thumb and little finger of each hand, and you took him out in one direction and the other. Now, you can just try that and see if it works. If it works, great. And some of you might have already done this with me or with others. And if it works, great. The point of such exercises is precisely because new neural connections are being formed in the brain. And we need to do that. Otherwise, we're stagnating. Our brain is getting into a rut by using the same circuits. It's like taking the same road from your home to office every day, and things don't change, and you're just conditioned and you just follow that same route. So our brain works in the same way. And we need to, new experiences are going to stimulate the brain. It's going to stimulate our senses and create more intelligence. Now, this is just a brain-based thing, but I'm not really into only brain-based thing because that's still very physical. And let's go a little deeper. And if we want to talk about well-being, and that's so important in today's context and in the future context, then I would go a step further from brain gym and then talk about mudras, hand mudras. Now, because we're on Zoom, and we can't move so much, we can't do so many things, we can still do things with our hands and our faces. So let's just do a simple mudra with our hand. And I have picked this out. This is actually oracle cards, okay? These are cards inside and they're oracle cards. And I've picked out this one and it is called the Prithvi Mudra, okay? This is a mudra which is based on grounding and centering. Very simple. You take your ring finger and your thumb and you're just going to hold them together. And as you just join the tips, and you extend your palms, and then you just close your eyes and take a deep breath. And please do this with me if you feel up to doing it. And you take a deep breath and you release. And there you will feel the centering and the grounding. And this is known as a Prithvi Mudra. So this is my way of starting and energizing today's session with all of you. Okay? And because we're going to be connected to our bodies, and connected to Earth. So let me begin with my presentation. Sorry, I have moved out of this. I'm going to share my presentation with you all. And I hope you can see it. Naveen, you can see it? Give me a thumbs up. All right. So the school that we created is called Mahatma Gandhi International School. Pascal and myself created this 22 years ago. And this is a school, as Naveen said, it's a PPP model, and it is actually part of the municipal corporation. And we work with local municipal authorities. And our dream was if we could transform a municipal school into an international school of quality using innovative pedagogies, then we would have shown that India is not a poor country. It's actually a country full of rich resources. We just need to use those resources as best as we can. So we joined hands. And here, the point also about the school was, what's the purpose of coming to school? What's the purpose of education? And today, as we face the pandemic, this question is going to linger on. Because if everything can be done online, then why go to school at all? And I think right from the beginning, something really was very important for me, which was that the purpose of education is to help you know yourself. And that's something that we have written here. Because ultimately, in your life, it is going to hit you at some age. Why am I here? Who am I? And why am I here? And what's going to be my contribution to society? So this is important for us to help children, to create opportunities for children to come forward with this, to understand themselves. Now, I was talking about the paradigms that, inheriting the models of colonial education. And what did that do? It created fragmentation. this division between self and environment. And in fact, the very definition of experiential learning, which is now in the national education policy, and it's a buzzword everywhere. What's the definition of experiential learning? And if you look at the basic definition, even given by John Dewey, it is actually the interaction between self and the environment. It's precisely that. And in my interaction with the environment, I'm not only shaping the environment, but the environment is also shaping me. But this disconnection, this fragmentation is what made us alienated and isolated. And all educational systems have just focused on textbook kind of learning. The second paradigm, the aspect of this paradigm was that of competition. Now, where is that coming from? That's coming from this Darwinian idea of the survival of the fittest. That means I have to be fittest. And there's only one fittest. Incidentally, it's just a superlative. So nobody can be the fittest, right? There'll be one fittest and the rest of us are all doomed. And that's terrible. So that's what's got us into a competitive model. And from there, we need to move on to cooperative models. And then finally, the repetition. We need to move on from repetition to co-creation, learning to work together. So what's the way forward? The way forward is through connection, cooperation, and co-creativity. In 1998, when we started the school, as some of you would know that, we faced terrific protests, agitations, and bus burning, blood signature campaigns, civil disobedience, people trying to go to jail, well, some lobbies. And of course, it was a tough time. Police posted there. You can see the police in front of the municipal school building. And it was a difficult time for us. But then people helped us as well from the city. And we won the case in the High Court and then in the Supreme Court, where these people had, some of the opposing groups had gone to. 1998, that's the building we got to create the school. And of course, now the building is in a much better shape. And so what we want to do now, just right now we're in the pandemic, but even before the pandemic, 20 years ago, we'd already said, learning, you have to learn for well-being. Today is actually yesterday's tomorrow. That's so fundamental, isn't it? So you need to think about advance. You need to think in advance what you want to do tomorrow. What's going to be the world like? And we knew that well-being is something which is universal for all times. So that is how we created that. And of course, how do you create that? What are the things in a pedagogy that you need to have? Choice for children. It has to be purposeful. It should be based on thrival and inclusion for all, because survival is competitive, thrival is for all. And Swaraj, the Gandhian concept of Swaraj, which is self-governance, but understanding that self-governance comes in codependence. And I can see Gandhiji behind Naveen, and there's Gandhiji's portrait right behind me too, so I know he's blessing us. So the idea was that everything is a resource to learn. People keep saying, we don't have this, we don't have that, but actually we have fantastic resources. But even if you have nothing, then you have the body, you have the space, and you have a lot of daily objects. And that's how we created the idea of generated resources learning. And that is very important to, connect with your body. So the first thing is your body. How do you connect with the body of the learner? And here you see a body awareness project going on. Very often in schooling, I've always, when I was a student, we had the chart of, the external chart of a body, reproductive system and the respiratory system and all, but that's something external and I don't know how is this linked to me. But here, these are the children's own silhouettes. They've drawn themselves, different parts of their body, and they lie down and they feel which is that part and they draw that. They're labeling it. Now from that two-dimensional chart, they've gone on to make life-size puppets, and now they're making these little chits there. They're themselves discovering through books, internet, whatever. They made their labels, they made life-size puppets, and now they are busy doing role play with their own life-size puppets. So that's how you're creating a sense of identity, understanding about the body. There's role play, there's theater, there's art, there's science, there's language, all of it is connected. When we're talking about the body, we're also talking about the different senses that we have. And these senses have been neglected in education. Now, I'm not talking about the use of senses only through yoga, but how do you bring it into the curriculum? And this is part of the same body module that you saw. Children are just learning to recognize their partners by just touching the face. And, that's how you break the inhibitions between boys and girls. You break the inhibitions between people, and you bring this this connection between them. You create that connection. Similarly, in a younger class, it's the same thing. The senses are being used across all ages to even learn different disciplines. You can see here the same thing. They're learning chemistry here. And you can see they've got beads there, and it's been put on the chart. And this is a wonderful module by my colleague, Ravinder, and you can see that she's done a lovely one. The body module was by my colleague Meenu, and that's a lovely module. And they can sense that, and they're working in pairs, and it's become a little game for them. So the point is that we can bring in lots of fun techniques to learn, whether it's younger class or higher class. But the projects that we do now in our school, we don't have textbooks. We're using real life projects, and these projects are connected to real life, and it helps children to do collaborative work. One of the projects I like to always show is the cafe project. Now, this is a very important thing in current time today, because we're talking about the pandemic. We're talking about illness, and we're talking about wellness. And what is the way forward? The way forward is going to be actually the immunity. For the immunity, it's going to be how you eat, how do you nourish yourself. And when I say nourishment, it's not only physical nourishment of food, it's also the thoughts. How are you nourishing yourself by what you read, what you hear, etc. And we'll come to that later. But let's start with food. Okay, and this cafe project, where children themselves decide what they want to make, they taste it, they decide on healthy recipes, they go out and purchase, they calculate all the different costs of it. So many of my colleagues, Anita, my senior colleagues, Juna, and a lot of other teachers from our school are doing this. You can see that they again, the eyes are blindfolded, they're still feeling this stuff. You can see the kids making. So there's a lot of mathematics which is coming in, profit and loss, proportions, volumes, ratios, all of that, hygiene. So, you can see the kids have made their own system of coupons and money. Real money is being exchanged. They're really doing this. They're managing all the accounts themselves, and they're selling. And you can see that so many things can go wrong when you're selling food. The food, you run out of food, something burns, and they have to deal with all of that. The other point is also when you're talking about connections, you're connecting with also daily objects. And here, they're looking at all different objects, they're analyzing that. They're looking at what is local products, what are imported products. So all of this is part of that. How much are they consuming? Now, when they're consuming that, they're also looking at how much waste are they creating. And this is a project done by Anita Shah, my colleague. And this is fantastic because you can see that they're becoming aware of consumption patterns and the waste that they generate. And this is the waste management solution mapping. So what we do in our school is we don't look at content. And that's such an important thing for educators. Don't look at content. Content is everywhere. If you begin with the content, you're beginning in the wrong end. Begin with the real life. What are the issues that we face? Is it health? Is it garbage outside my school? Is it a traffic issue? And here the waste is a problem. Then take that and map that. And today in India, we have the national education, the policy, which has given us competency-based learning with the NCERT, and that's all you have to do. There are other projects where you have filmmaking. So, they're doing script writing. So there's languages, there's physics in terms of light and sound and frequency, technology for editing. They're making films on social issues. Here they're making films for the Election Commission of India. So they're actually not making it for academic purposes only. They're making for real people who are real professionals. And when these children made these little films, and the commission sent these posters out, and 7.5 million voters, and they all signed the pledge and they returned it to the government of Gujarat. So this is a kind of impact just 25 kids can have, but they were involved in citizenship, in democracy, in really real life work. Now we've spoken about the body. We should also talk about the body in space. The next part is the space. We're expanding now. And you can see this is still the chemistry module going on, but here the kids are now electrons and they're doing the atom dance and they're interacting with space and they are being the electron. Now this is where I'm bringing up pedagogy, and this is thanks to Pascal's idea of the removing the subject-object divide. That means I am the electron. There is no difference between me and the atom. I am the atom. I'm entering inside the atom. And I can do that through different ways, through the biography or writing the autobiography of an atom like my colleague Ravinder has done. Or here what you're doing is through the dance also, which is a part of the same module, etc. So there's a body and space interaction. Now, when we're talking also about connections, we're talking about connecting also with the community. So our school is a democratic school where children make their own rules and regulations, and they have conflict, whatever conflicts have, they resolve through that, whatever issues they have. Every 1 week, 10 days, they have meetings, and they they run the school basically. The only rule we have is that of non-violence, and that's something they have to respect. But the rest, they decide. Here, the seating arrangement, Naveen already spoke about that, but this kind of a seating arrangement fosters a lot of group work. There's flexibility in seating. There are no rigid seating arrangements, etc. Now, all of this happened, in the school, and our kids started, of course, 20 years running. It's an international baccalaureate school because we wanted to also compete, or not compete, but to show that learning differently and even being an inclusive school, our children could reach some of the toughest exams in the world. And here I love what this young student of ours, who's an alumni, has written. And look at the last line. MGIS is where you can be you and be a part of something bigger. And I thought that was a fantastic way of saying, because not only did they find themselves, but they found their place in the larger scheme of things. And that question now is, what exactly is this something bigger? And that's where I'm going to change now the track. And we're now going on to a more spiritual way. This is a photograph of our daughter, Tara Shazo. And Tara is now in an energetic form. She's no longer in a physical body. She left this physical world in 2014. That's when I met Naveen and Shakil, in fact. And we began to find it was a sudden infection that took her away. But Tara used to always tell us and warn us that she was going to go away and not be a teenager at all. So this kind of a precognitive, experiences that she had, and the poems that she wrote, which we began to find later on. Incidentally, the Aurobindo Ashram has published her poems also. And she wrote this. She said, the universe is made up of molecules and we are all interconnected. So every conference I pick up one line of hers. This was the one. The interconnection was a theme I chose. So I've taken this line from Tara. And so when we began to find these messages, we began to wonder what is happening. And we began to explore deeper about human consciousness. And as Rumi says, it is the crack that lets the light in. And of course, in all that grief and shock and pain that we went through, the crack happened, the heart broke, but the light came in. So then what happened to us was that we began to explore. And some of my friends who are in France and Switzerland, Mark and Serge and Celine, Serge is a shaman. And we began to explore shamanism. We went into alternative healing techniques and energetic techniques. And we learned such wonderful things that we wanted to bring back to our children, and we began to do that. And now what we're doing is we're developing the consciousness curriculum, but with scientific discoveries as well, with the new discoveries in science, such as quantum physics, epigenetics, and with big scientists like Rupert Sheldrake and Joe Dispenza, etc. So the point is that we have to talk about intuition, intention, and imagination. This is the way forward. The way forward is to bring the intuition back into education, to use the intention to shape the reality that you want to shape, and to use the imagination as a tool to arrive there. One of the experiments, now we're still doing what we're doing, but now at a deeper level. Here, one of the experiments was the rice experiment by Masaru Emoto, which we did in our school. In fact, KG children did that, and they gave a different emotion to every rice beaker that they made, of love and gratitude to one, a negative emotion to another, and they ignored a third one. And in fact, on a period of 1 month, they found different reactions. The rice that had received thanks and gratitude was very good, pure. The one that was ignored was rotting. And the one that was hated was also completely brown and rotten. The water had turned dark. So these are the experiments. You can see it on our website, mjs.in, or on MJS Mind Over Matter on YouTube. And of course, other experiments. The other things that we did was, shamanism, going towards a tree, experiencing what is the tree telling you. So to look at the cell structure of a leaf under a microscope is the objectification of the tree. You're looking at it in a micro way. But when you go and touch the tree and experience what the tree is telling you, that's a different experience. So it's another dimension. We're doing psychometry, where we are learning to get information from objects. So it's also part of remote viewing. We are working with energy techniques. So our children now are trained to use intuition to make career choices as well, not just the rational part of the brain, but also the intuitive part. We went on to therefore then have a lot of experiential learning. It started expanding to, thanks to, of course, Naveen and Shakil as well, across the country. the generated resources learning began to go into more schools in India. CBSE, they already said it has become an online course. It began to go to other countries as well. And this was in different countries that they mentioned, in France and Switzerland and Russia, with many of my French friends. And there's Celine there, and Celine is there online today with us, and she's in the photograph as well. So it is a Normandy region. We're working with public schools, with government authorities. The other things we did was, evaluation. So here you can see children, we're doing a group evaluation on a political party that the kids have created. And look at that. In 2016, the National Education Policy Committee came to visit our school. These are photographs of their visit in 2016. This is the first draft of the NEP which was given. And now when you look at the National Education Policy, so many good practices from our school have found their way there. Experiential learning, innovative methods, connections between subjects, but also the report card. Now this is coming really from MGIS, because the National Education Policy talks about a progress report card that includes self-peer assessment followed by teacher assessment, and also affective and other qualities. And look at that. These are our old report cards. You can see cognitive competencies, transversal, the generated resources which are done. And look at that, student feedback, self-evaluation, peer, and parent feedback as well. And of course, our report cards run into 20 to 30 pages. So I'm not going into that. So ultimately, what's education? Education is about learning that we have a place in the world. It is about creating compassionate people, to know that you have a contribution to make. In the end, I will just say this, Tara's poem, I'm going to end with that. Another poem of hers is a beautiful picture of Tara. She said, the world we say, the world we said, the world's a big place and I'm small, but I matter because I am matter. And what she seems to be saying is that every child matters. And today we've created École de Tara, which is now a movement in France, and schools in France are also adopting this philosophy, this movement of co-creative, joyful experiential learning. Thank you very much. I hope you stay grounded and happy and well.